Well, good morning, Brick Wall community members. Okay, so 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever. I'm going live. I was a little behind this morning because a couple things came up that I didn't know was going to happen. So anyhow, I am here now and we are going to talk about information overload. And I made a post in the group that was talking about information overload day, which I didn't know even existed until I started researching some of this stuff and came up with it. So, Information Overload Awareness Day is actually celebrated the third Tuesday in October, and that's pretty much been going on for the last 8 years. So apparently I wasn't in that information overload category because I didn't even know it was a real thing until, like I said, I started doing this research. So as I researched this and looked into it even more, I thought, this is perfect. This is exactly what we're talking about, replacing some of those negative tools in our toolbox with some positive ones. And I thought information overload is a huge one for people. So I thought that I would come in and talk about that a little bit this morning. And really, information overload is just either too much information or a combination of these. Just too much information, not enough time, poor quality of the information, and of course, fear of missing out. That's really something a lot of people have as well, and that has to do with the information overload that is out there. And I thought it was really interesting before I jump into these tools that we can use. I thought it was really interesting some of the percentages, the facts and figures that I found out when I was researching. So they've done these research studies, and it looks like I found a couple of research studies that dated back like 20 years ago. And they did one. I actually pulled out two different studies. So one was done 20 years ago, and one was done about 16 years ago. And the percentages actually have gone up since they started studying this rather than going down, which I thought was a little odd, but approximately during these studies, we're talking about 33% of the people are suffering some kind of poor health due to information overload. And the health can be physical and it can be mental. And the other percentage is huge, 68% of the people that were surveyed have a net, it's information overload has had a negative impact on their personal and their professional lives. That's huge. That's huge. So information overload is really a good subject for us to talk about when we're talking about replacing those tools with important important and positive ones in that toolbox. So over here in the little, hold on, I'm opening it up here so that I can keep track of what I'm doing here. So really there's two basic ways for you to overcome this information overload. And that's with focus and that's with concentration. And it sounds easy. I'll just focus. No, I'll have good concentration. It is not that simple in a world that is full of information. And especially for people that are running their businesses from home, running their own businesses without help from other people, the information can be overwhelming at times. So some of the ways, and really what I did was I went out and when I wrote this, I picked out 10 different ways to fight against this information overload and things that you can instill into your daily routine that will help you to pretty much combat this information overload that is happening. And believe me, it's happening to all of us. So the first one that I wanted to talk about was changing how you handle it if it's not working for you. And really, that can be done in so many different ways. But the biggest thing that kind of popped out for me is that a lot of times I am trying to do something on the computer and I'm switching from screen to screen and I'm looking at different things and I'm thinking it would be so much easier if I could just have a printed version of this. And I think some of you can understand where I'm coming from this, especially if it's multiple reports that you're looking at, trying to group them into one screen or one document would be so helpful. So that's just one way of how you could change how you handle something. If it's not working for you now, I mean, just think about the different ways that you could change it so that it would work to your advantage. The second one is delegate, and that is another really big one. We often, as solopreneurs, don't want to delegate anything for various reasons. But delegating, getting team members, getting someone that you can say, look, there's just too much going on here, and I just need a helping hand with this thing or these two things. Start off, with one or two things that you are able to delegate to somebody else, and that will really help with the information overload as well. Number 3 is setting aside time to escape from it all. And I know I talk about this a lot, but it is really helpful to be able to take a step back from everything and not have to worry about what your email box is going to look like when you come back, or what's happening in your group that you're supposed to be administrating, or whatever it might be. You need to find that little time so that you can step aside from all of that and not be inundated with your phone ringing and the pings and the dings and turning off your TV, just stepping back and doing not even necessarily reflection time, but just not having all of that outside noise. The fourth way I put down here is installing metrics or guidelines to gauge reliability, trustworthiness, and the accuracy of the info when you're researching. I mean, there is so much information on the internet. There's so many conflicting reports in newspapers and on TV. You really have to find some kind of metric in order for you to make sure that the information that you are bringing forward, if you're writing a blog or you're getting ready to do a PowerPoint presentation, or you're talking with your clients about something, you want to make sure that the information came from a trustworthy, reliable source. Number 5 is, if you must multitask, do it wisely. And I stuck that in because I am not a fan of multitasking, but sometimes you just have to do it. And some of the ways that it's okay to multitask is, if you're downloading information, it's going to take a while. That's a great time for you to set that task, let it do its downloading piece, and you can be reviewing a report. You can be going over information in a different way, so that your focus really isn't on 2 separate things at once, or 3 separate things at once, but you're still getting the work done. And 6, I have prioritizing. And yes, it is an everyday process to be able to prioritize, reprioritize. We've got these lovely little schedules and calendars in front of us, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be able to do it in that way. Things pop up. a doctor's appointment may happen. You might get a call from your kid's school, whatever might be going on. You have to be able to look at that list and reprioritize the information from it. Number 7, and this comes in really handy sometimes with the prioritizing, is making sure that you're using a time block method. And the time block method is really helpful because it gives your full attention to that particular task. And I'm going to have a separate live or a training on this time blocking, but essentially you're looking at your calendar and you are blocking off time on it to get particular tasks done. Like every Tuesday and Thursday in the morning, you're going to have coffee chats. Every Wednesday afternoon is when you're going to work on your blog post writing. It doesn't necessarily work for every single person, but it's nice to know that you've got a time block on your schedule. So if for whatever reason it's Tuesday afternoon, you're supposed to be writing your blog post and you just can't do it, you can just pick up that time block and move it somewhere else on your schedule within the week so that you know you're still addressing it. Number 8, saying no. My famous saying no. I actually wrote a LinkedIn article addressing this way of saying no to things. Yesterday, it posted out. And this is, instead of us automatically saying yes to absolutely everything that hops up, saying no is okay. If it's not in alignment with your ultimate goal, if you don't have room on your schedule, if it's something that you think you should do, but you're really not sure, think about it and then react. There's a lot of different ways to go about that, and I am one of the biggest culprits for years and years of just saying yes to everything instead of saying no. And it's a difficult thing to get over. And it is something that I continue to work on every single day. I have to remind myself it's okay to say no. Number 9, letting go of perfection. And I don't mean that you want to get shoddy work out there, but sometimes in order to move forward, you just need to start somewhere and get something done, and then you can go back and tweak it later. You can fancy it up, you can make it look pretty, but if you get the information out there and not worry about making it perfect, you will feel much more relaxed. You will feel better. You're taking that small step. And number 10, tackling everything with a positive mindset. And I know I talk about this all the time. I do believe that having a positive mindset is really like 80 or 90% of what it means to be able to run a successful business. You have to remain positive, and being able to have that positive mindset sometimes means blocking everything else out. And of course, that would be blocking out all that information, giving yourself time to process through what you're working on. And some of the helpful tools that I have put in here, and these are things that we've talked about, and by no means this is not an exhaustive list. There's tons of stuff out there, but these are some of the things that I use myself in my business, or a lot of the clients that I work with. These are good tools for them, so I kind of just hit the first 10 and put them down there. And feel free to add in other tools too. A lot of times we use tools ourselves and think everybody else knows that's out there and available to them, and that's not the case. So if you have any suggestions to put in here as well, that would be really helpful to all the other members. But some of the helpful tools that I put down here, like Evernote and Pocket, Dropbox, OneNote, of course, using your calendar, list keepers. There's so many of those out there. Journaling and mind mapping are two really good ways to weed out a lot of the information and get down, niche down into exactly what you need to focus on. Using the Google Suite, there's so many, you can do Word and Excel and make forms and all kinds of things right there in one place. And of course, setting timers and making sure that you're using that Pomodoro technique, which is super helpful to us. And okay, so look, 15 minutes, bing, done. Like I said, I wanted to hop in here and I wanted to talk about this information overload because I think this is perfect for us. This is perfect for this month's overall theme. This is perfect for this week when we're talking about replacing those negative tools with positive ones in our toolbox. And I hope that some of these will be helpful to you. Like I said, if you have any others, feel free to put those in the comments. If you have any questions when you come back and watch this replay, by all means, ask them and I will zip back around and look at them and answer where I can. And I hope everyone has an awesome Tuesday. I'm trying to think what's going on. My Tuesday, I'm going to be disappearing for a little while because I'm on information overload and I really needed to take a time to step back and really tackle some of the things on my to-do list. So that is what I have scheduled for today. And that's what I'm going to be doing. But I will be, circling back around to this group later on. And what else? Let's see. Kendall came out with some great things yesterday. So if you haven't seen what Kendall's put in the group, make sure you go back and review those. She's looking for input and she's asking if you have any questions about transcription work or the kind of work that she can produce for you with your material. By all means, go back and interact with her on that. And have a fantastic Tuesday. See you soon.